This will be the reading for the sign of Libra for the month of September 2026. The deck that I'm using is the Rider-Waite deck by Pamela Coleman-Smith and Arthur Waite. And what I've done is I've pulled 3 cards for each week within the month of September and an overall energy card. This overall energy card will affect, in turn, every single activity, thought, situation that you're involved in within the month. So be aware of that. And grab a coffee, put your feet up. This is going to be a long lesson. So we're going to start with your energy card. And your energy card is an Ace of Wands, and it's reversed. Now that talks about you needing to alter your lifestyle because you're worn out, you're tired. You don't have a lot of energy at this point in time, okay? You're not able to get excited about things. You're in a period of exhaustion. You're looking for clarity, you're looking for facts, and you're really not sure how you want to move forward with the project. It does talk about recovery. And recovery is going to be slow and it's going to drag on and on and on. So recovering from something that you have put a lot of effort in is going to take you a while. And you're feeling frustrated as hell, okay? Now, Libra, there are going to be sporadic bursts of energy on your part. And you might be dealing with new people, new projects, new technology, okay? New adventure, even a new romance or affection, maybe even love that's being kept secret. Like, are you meeting someone on the sly? Is there a love triangle taking place here? Now, it does talk about too many outside distractions, okay? And there's going to be progress after a very slow start. So there was a lot of energy expended in this activity that you're doing, but the beginning was very slow. You were slow to get moving, and now you're wanting to finish up the task. It does talk about recovery after illness. It talks about frustration. You feel like your energy really has no outlet. Maybe getting involved in a sports activity within the month of September because you have all this built up energy and tension and you need to release it. So you're going to focus on activities that are going to help you burn off some of that tension. It does talk about emotional turmoil, uneven expression of passion, whether it be for a relationship, romantic, familial, or even a new project or a new endeavor that you're wanting to get involved in, okay? You're not really feeling a lot of passion for it. You just want it to be done. So we're moving into the first week. First couple of days of the first week, okay? You have the Nine of Swords, and the Nine of Swords is reversed. And that talks about a subconscious anxiety that's building, okay? You have this personal history of hardship. And maybe you're feeling, you're kind of feeling like you haven't got anybody you can trust to let your guard down with, okay? You're worn out, you're depressed. You might even be dealing with some insomnia, waking up in the middle of the night. But it does say that you need to talk to someone who understands you or who is not going to be placating or blame you or demand explanations of some sort, okay? Some problems are clearing up in your life. Of course they are. Minor anxieties seem overwhelming at this point in time, but you're worried more about what could happen, okay? But the problems that you're dealing with are more minor anxieties, but it just seems like you're blowing them out of proportion because of this state of anxiety that you're constantly in. So maybe you need to go on vacation because in the middle 2 days of that first week, it does talk about a need to control a situation. It talks about thinking clearly and forming a strategy, a plan, okay? You need a lot of control in the first couple of days of that first week. You're in control of your life. You're in control of this situation. You're moving forward. But you need to resist temptation to backslide, okay? And be aware there's going to be societal problems around you, people problems. Maybe you need to step in when there are others who really don't want to be bothered or couldn't, don't want to put the effort in. So it talks about you being focused on studies, work, life, a path in your life that you're wanting to go down, but you're not really sure how you are going to endeavor to do that, okay? You have to put this plan in place, and you might be making a 10-year plan for this scenario. But it does say yes to any question that you have about traveling. If you're planning on going on vacation, yes, you're going on a vacation. If you want to physically relocate, that's going to happen too. And it's going to happen very quickly, okay? You might have to deal with matters with institutions or even people problems, societal problems. It does talk about awards and honors, celebrations, success. You might even get a new car or go on a trip. So that's not a bad thing. Just, you've been dealing with so much stress. I wouldn't blame you for wanting to go on vacation. Trust me, I wouldn't. So we're moving into the middle 2 days that first week, and you have the star. Now, the star card talks about energy renewed. It talks about inspiration and guidance, fertility and creativity. Okay, so you were dealing with things and you put a 10-year plan in place, or you put a plan in place, and now you're following through step by step. Okay, but you're excited about it. Yeah, you're feeling optimistic and enthusiastic. And you know, you even might be feeling a little bit of affection or kindness. Okay, for someone. Now, it does talk about fertility. So if you don't want to have a kid, make sure you're taking proper precautions, okay? But fertility can also stand about a new endeavor in your life, a new business, a new way of doing things, okay? So be aware of that. It also talks about favors, someone giving you money or some type of accolades. Abundance talks about talks about health, and it talks about a wholeness, okay? Feeling like you're part of your body instead of just going through certain ropes in your life, okay? It does talk about actually being there mentally, physically, and emotionally. You want to endeavor to complete something. You want to create some type of newness in your life, in your environment, okay? Be aware of that. Now, it also talks about a person coming into your life, and this person is very caring and very, very generous, which is a good thing. You don't hear that too often. This person is very gracious, and they're willing to aid and protect you, Libra. Your wishes and your desires are going to be fulfilled. You're going to develop your talents, your skills. There is going to be a semblance of strange luck, okay, or coincidence, almost like you're manifesting this. Trust your own creativity. Trust that you know what you're doing, okay? Be confident. Don't let anyone see you lose that sense of confidence. Walk with pride. Walk tall. Now, it does talk about healing. Mind, body, or spirit, right? So healing's going to come in time, but it does talk about you needing to strengthen your mind and your body. So let us move into the second week. And in that second week, the first card you have is the Emperor. And the Emperor stands for an authority figure, a father figure, okay? Someone who's got the power to help you. Could be a father, an uncle, a boss, a mentor, even a son. Someone with authoritative type of energy where they walk tall. It could be a politician, it could be a teacher, it could be a lawyer, it could be, you know, someone who's in a position of authority. But it stands for their cooperation. They're providing their presence, their protection, or even acting as a guidance to you in some way, okay? And it does talk about this individual has that ability to think on a larger scale, and they're planning for the future on a larger scale. And so they're encouraging you to do likewise, okay? Now, it does say you're going to have to assert rule over reason, but you know how to get things done. If anybody can get things done, Libra can get them done. And when Libra says they're going to do something, they damn well do it, by hook or by crook. Now, it does say that you might have to step in and take charge, delegate, maybe even give direction to someone, okay? You're going to achieve your goals. You're going to gain prosperity, stability, and respect. People are looking toward you with respect. You don't even realize that these people are, admiring the things that you are doing or involved in, okay? So you're not even aware of it, but it's almost taking place behind the scenes where people are starting to agree with you. They're starting to agree with your viewpoints and your ideologies and your values, okay? So you are going to be receiving recognition for the things that you're doing or the things that you want to do or that you're planning to do. So we're going to move into the middle 2 days of that second week. And you have the Two of Wands, and the Two of Wands is reversed. And that talks about, once again, you're in this indecisive process, right? You're not being able to make a decision. You've been offered two choices, and you're not really sure which one is viable for your plan. Yeah. But it does talk about be careful, because you might make an irrational choice if you're being pressured to make a choice quickly, okay? Now, a familiar choice, I should say, that didn't work before, sure as hell ain't going to work now. It ain't going to work now, okay? It does talk about simplifying your life. Give something up. There's something that you need to give up. And I don't know if it's property. I don't know if it's money. I don't know if it's accolades. It could be a relationship. Could be a home. I mean, maybe you're, separating from your partner and you're having to divvy up the home, right? And so maybe you're going to have to give that up. It could be property that you own and you have to give some of that up. But it does talk about there being partnership turmoil. It also talks about friendship in a business or a project partnership, okay, is dealing with some type of inequality, possibly due to financial constraints or maybe due to ego. There might be someone that you're dealing with who just wants to be the one in power, okay? They mightn't have the right decisions, the right choices, the right ideas, but they don't care. They want to be the one in the forefront. Okay, now it also talks about there being some resistance to change. People aren't going to change as easily as you think they will. They might have to be goaded into it, to be honest with you. Or Libra, it could be you. Maybe you're resistant to some change in your life, okay? And maybe you're even denying that change has occurred, or there might be people around you denying that change has occurred, and they're not willing to move along those lines, okay? Now, it also says that you might be moving somewhere where it's more peaceful, more calm. Maybe you're in a chaotic environment and you've had enough. You need a break. You might be moving across the country. You might be moving to a new environment, okay? So be aware of that. So we're going to move into the latter part of that second week. Ace of Swords, straight up. And that talks about things and situations and disagreements that are going to extremes. So it talks about going into some type of conflict again, okay? And you dealt with this in that first week. So it does talk about your identity is going to be challenged. You don't see yourself as vain as the other people see you in your life, okay? You don't see yourself as wanting to be in control. You don't see yourself as a villain, okay? Now, it does talk about intensity in behaviors, and that could be with the people around you. It could even have to do with some type of legality, okay? There is justice that is going to come about here. Now, there also is a semblance of danger. So Libra, be very, very careful. Be careful who you trust. Be careful where you travel. Be careful the mode of transportation that you're taking. With the world in such a state of chaos, there are so many unexpected situations that happen. So be aware of that. Now, it also talks about endings, finalities, the ending of something, okay? You've dealt with it, you're done with it, and now you want to move on. But it does talk about great passion and an intense focus on being able to end a situation that has gone out of control. It does say that you have that ability to summon great force or even great strength, and you are going to do it. There is going to be intense emotions in your beliefs, in your activities, in your environment, even in your interactions. There might be a semblance of war or skirmishes where people are pushing back, where people are saying, we don't agree with that and we're not doing that, right? There might be an overthrow of a government. Walkouts. People walking off the job because they disagree with the pay hikes or the taxes or whatever it may be, okay? People are going to they've had enough. They've had enough. They're saying, I'm done. This is not happening anymore. I'm walking out of here, right? Now, it does talk about you having to stand up for yourself. You have a strong, very strong need for independence and to be sovereign, okay? Now, there are going to be opposing ideals and values that you're going to have to deal with, and Libra, you will deal with it, and you will deal with it diplomatically, okay? And if diplomatically, and you might have to use force, it is going to end because you've had enough. It's done. What's done is done. So we're going to move into the third week. In the third week, you are dealing with a fire sign individual, someone who's very impulsive, okay? They have their finger on the trigger at all times, okay? That's a fire sign. Leo, Aries, or Sagittarius. They're fearless. They're absolutely fearless. They don't care about anything. If they want something, they go and get it, right? They're very enterprising, sneaky almost, right? Now, it could be an inventor. It could be someone who has invented a new business or, a new product, okay? But they are asking you to get involved in a new business endeavor or a goal. a new relationship, or even a new endeavor, right? A new activity. And you're becoming more active, maybe in some type of sports activity or fitness. You're focusing on your health at this point in time, okay? Now, there's also a large amount of money coming to you. Does someone owe you money, or are you going to be, did you win the lottery, right? There's going to be a good chunk of change coming to you, Libra. And it's going to make you highly self-reliable, or yeah, self-reliant, sorry. Also a competitive situation, okay? You're going to expand your social network. So you're going to enlarge your environment. You are going to, maybe you're going to move into a bigger house. Maybe you're moving from the country into the city. Maybe you're moving from the city into the country, where you're going to have more space, okay? More land. It also talks about expanding your skills in some way, going at a distance to learn a new skill. Yeah. It does talk about romance and a mutual attraction to someone. Also, it talks about you going somewhere that you've been before, whether you took your education there, whether you took your training there, whatever it may be, okay? You're going somewhere where you've been before to do something new, to start a new business, to start a new endeavor, okay? To get involved in a new environment in some way, and it's in a very strong way. So you might be investing perhaps monies into a new property, a new area, a new group of people, okay? A new business. Maybe you're going to buy a sports team, or join a sports team, okay? A service club. It is a new project, and it is a close net group. Now, it also talks about possibly you wearing a uniform of some sort. And we are in the third week, so wearing a uniform in the third week of September. Now, it might be someone you know, a fire sign individual, okay? Because Libra, you're an air sign, and this is a fire sign. So it could be an element of your personality, or it could be someone you know, a child of yours, a mentor of yours, a friend of yours, okay? Might be joining the military, or joining a job where there will be the wearing of some type of uniform. So we are now in the middle 2 days of that third week, and you have the Seven of Wands straight up. And that talks about you being very courageous and inventiveness. And you see this, you have a vision of how you want things to be, and you are going to enact it. You are going to make it happen, okay? You're going to problem solve. This 10-year plan or 5-year plan or whatever plan you've put in motion, you have the stamina and the guts to continue with it. And that's exactly what you are going to do. It does talk about you needing to be alert, okay? Overcome obstacles. Watch out for someone that you can't trust, okay? Be careful with opposition and any other problems that would stand in your way of achieving your goals. Now, you're going to have to take defense of your ideas, or even ideals or beliefs or values, okay? People are going to challenge you. Of course they are. They're going to challenge your direction, your career, your lifestyle, what it is you want, maybe even your religious or your political beliefs. Yeah, and they could very well be your friends that are questioning you because your values and your beliefs have changed. Talks about energy and endurance is going to be needed in some type of competitive activity. Are you perhaps involved in some type of competition for skating or skiing or running or taekwondo or something like that, right? Position yourself well. Stand your ground, okay? You're solid. You're solid. Be defensive. There are going to be changes in plans, but those are going to happen later, okay? Now, just talk about you having a respect for the earth and putting some effort, some time, and maybe even some money into it. Maybe you're going to get involved in some type of activity that is going to include homesteading, farming, or growing some type of crop that is that you can sell, right? Becoming a farmer and selling your wares, selling what it is that you're growing. You're not going to believe this, but all of a sudden a potato just popped into my head. So I don't know, maybe you're going to grow a farmer's field full of potatoes and you're going to sell your potatoes by the bushel bag or whatever it's called, right? So we are now, hang on, 1, 2, 3. We are in the last couple of days of that third week. And you have the Three of Swords straight up. And that talks about reacting to conflict. And that's going to create some headaches, you know. I mean, when you're dealing with people who are like constantly arguing with you and telling you you're wrong, 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 yeah, it's going to create a headache. It's a damn pain in the butt. Yeah, it does talk about a communication that's going to bring bad news, maybe even a rumor or a disturbing message of sort. Maybe someone has passed. Maybe there's been, you know, a national disaster. Maybe someone you know was on a trip and they got hurt, okay? And you're going to express your sorrows for this. Now, it does talk about writing, maybe poetry or music, to express that sorrow that you're dealing with. It also talks about injuries to your emotions or even to your ego. Can talk about heart problems, surgery, and it's possibly other people's issues, not yours. And so you're dealing with a semblance of sadness for that person's issues that they're dealing with. And it might be someone close to you. Other people's stress is going to affect you. It's going to trickle down to you in some way. So be sympathetic to other stress, okay? And listen, Libra, don't rehash old memories. If this person was in your life before, it could even be an ex-spouse or an ex-partner, romantic partner, okay? Don't rehash old memories. Just be prepared to say adios to this individual in a very forgiving way, okay? But it does talk about depression. It talks about depression, and it could be depression for someone you know. Maybe their partner has passed, and you're viewing this from a distance, and you're starting to think, well, you know, you shouldn't have done that. Maybe they were, you know, involved in something, and maybe that created this conflict in a relationship, and maybe their relationship broke up, or maybe their partner was a drinker, and maybe, you know, drinking can cause a lot of health issues. So you might be saying in the back of your head, well, if you weren't drinking so much, you wouldn't have passed, right? And so what I'm seeing here is that that's not your sin to forgive. There's only one person that can forgive that sin, and that's the big fella up above. And indeed, if it's something that you're dealing with, well, maybe you need to look at your lifestyle a little bit firmer than you look at other people's, okay? Now, it also talks about relationship incompatibilities, arguments, even abusive behavior, jealousy, or even unfaithfulness or separation. This all ties into something. So maybe someone cheated on their spouse, or you know, cheated on their spouse, and then they felt guilty about it, and they started drinking, and the drinking got them, you know, addicted, and then they had health problems because of it. Those type of things. It's something that is contributed to by someone's, you know, maybe not so ethical or logical decisions, right? So it does talk about jealousy, unfaithfulness, separation, a love triangle. Like, wow, this is pretty serious, pretty serious. So it does say that it's not you, Libra, so that's a good thing. It does say that perhaps your partner or your ex-partner or your romantic partner is not very ethical, or maybe they're not acting very mature. Yeah. So in that third week, you're dealing with relationship issues. You're dealing with people questioning your values, your ethics, your morality, okay? And you're not being as forgiving as you would normally be. Okay, so let's move into the last week. The last week, first couple of days of the last week, you have the Six of Cups, and it is straight up. And that talks about prosperity. It talks about you finally being able to relax, you know, that brain of yours. There is going to be success following some type of insecurity. Your self-esteem is building. You're gaining confidence. You're making the effort in some relationship, possibly a new relationship, okay? Now, it does talk about past memories. Perhaps someone you cared about has passed. As I said, in that third week, you were dealing with that. And now you're thinking about them, and you're remembering them with fondness. You're remembering the good things about them, not the negative things. It also stands for possibly rekindling of a past love, okay? It talks about issues surrounding your childhood, talks about gifts that you will receive from someone from the past, or maybe you're going to give a gift of condolence or appreciation to someone from your past. Now, we all go through this where you wish that the past would come back. Well, when the past is gone, it's gone, okay? So you have to be prepared for that and be willing to say goodbye. Yeah. You're missing someone from the past. There was someone in your life that perhaps maybe they've passed, or maybe, maybe they have moved, right? There is a change. And so you're missing them. You're thinking about them. You're thinking about something from the past. Maybe you're thinking about your parents, your mother, your father, your aunt, your grandfather, whoever it may be, okay? You're missing them. And at this point in time, you're needing a break. And so you're going to go on vacation. You're going to go visit old friends. Maybe you're even going to make some new friends on this journey. But it is a reprieve that you desperately need at this time to deal with to let go of the stress that you've been dealing with. So now we're in the middle part of that last week, middle 2 days. Now, it does talk about someone who has a history of emotional depression, okay? And their desire to be alone. I mean, is this you, Libra? Maybe you need to be alone to think things through, okay? When you need to think, you go off on a walk on your own, or you sit in your den, or you listen to a show by yourself, or you listen to music, or maybe you meditate, okay? But it does talk about you needing that peaceful time by yourself. And it does say that there are disruptive influences in your home, in your environment, or in your circumstances, and you're having a hard time to get that spare time to yourself where you can focus on your mind, your body, and your spirit. So here's the thing. Stress will cause inflammation, and inflammation causes disease. And I'm sure, Libra, you know this because you're very health conscious, okay? So it does say that you're going to be keeping a close eye on your health. Watching your health very closely, watching your hydration, watching your level of sleep, if you're getting enough sleep, if you're eating the proper foods, if you're staying away from the sugars and the junk foods, those type of things. So you're going to focus on your diet and your health at this point in time. And it's very important because that's what this is all about. This break that you're taking from your environment is to focus on your health. Maybe you're going in to the hospital and you're going in for rest and relaxation. Maybe you're going on a retreat somewhere, and that's a good thing. Okay, so last couple of days of that last week. King of Wands reversed, that's a fire sign. Okay, that's a Leo, Aries, or Sagittarius. Now, this person has this massive ego. It's all about them. Yeah, they're very domineering. They got a bad temper, and they fall in love with their own ideas, okay? They don't care. They don't care about other people's feelings or other people's ideas or input. If they want to do something, they're going to frickin' do it, yeah. And they're hated for their arrogance, okay? Like out of sight, out of mind. If it's a parental figure, they don't care. They would rather have a relationship with their children when the children are old enough to, make decisions and speak and talk, right? Now, this could also be someone in your circle of energy, maybe a romantic partner or someone you're interested in, and they're not willing to commit. They don't want to get committed. They want to just have a side-by-side relationship with you where maybe it's a sexual attraction, okay? But it does say that you need to reclaim your personal power from this individual, whether it's romantic, whether it's familial, whether it's a work-orientated, a career-orientated, or even an environment-orientated. You need to reclaim your personal power from this person, okay? Cultivate your own ideas, your own thoughts, your own interests, and your own talents, and put them in place, okay? You need to seek out the people that you feel safe with your personal expression, okay? And, this might even be a semblance where you're pulling away from possibly your children who are disrespecting you in some way, or your group of people, okay? You're pulling away from them. It does talk about reclaiming your personal power, but also reviving an educational element in your life. Maybe you're learning. Maybe you're going into family counseling or relationship counseling where you're learning about the dynamic in a relationship in your life. And this is very important as you're moving out of the month of September into October, because better things are on their way. And you got to have a firm grip on this. So I shall see you in October. Take care, my friends. Be safe and take care of that health. Leave that stress by the wayside. Enjoy your vacation. Namaste. Bye-bye.